On today's video, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about the situation between the Red Sox and Rafael Devers. Well, you may say, a situation? What are we talking about? Didn't we already have a situation before the season even started? Yes, true, we did. We had one then, and now we have a second one here. The first one was about the Red Sox asking Rafael Devers to change positions. Remember, Rafael Devers has been a homegrown player for the Boston Red Sox franchise. He was a third baseman, and the Boston Red Sox signed him to a long term contract extension in 2021. Allegedly, apparently, they promised that he would be a third baseman for the rest of his career. However, that was made under a former president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, who you will remember was then fired and is currently working in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. So, Rafael Devers was playing third base for the majority of his Boston Red Sox career. Wasn't a very good defender, didn't make a lot of great plays, and was one of the worst defensive players in Major League Baseball. The Boston Red Sox have needed offense. They've needed a middle of the order bat for a long time. Honestly, for me, the last time I can remember a big time offensive threat in the middle of Boston's lineup was JD Martinez in the 2018 season. So the Red Sox have been searching for this kind of a power bat forever. They were in desperate need of it this offseason. They went out on the market this winter and found Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman finally signed with the Boston Red Sox at the end of the winter, but nonetheless for a 3-year deal with opt-outs after each of the first 3 years, after each year basically. So what did that mean? Well, it immediately raised questions about where Rafael Devers would play defensively, because Bregman had won a Gold Glove in Houston last season at third base. The Red Sox had this player, Christian Campbell, who was rocketing through the minors. He had 330 at 3 levels last season. And there was questions about where Campbell would play if he ultimately got called up. As it turned out, Campbell started the opening day roster at second base. The Red Sox played Bregman at third, and Rafael Devers was the DH. So, like I said, there was a lot of consternation about whether Devers would move off third base and to DH, and ultimately he acquiesced. He said it would be the best thing for the team for him to do that, and things ultimately kind of petered out. So Devers, as we remember, he started out poorly. He went 0 for 21 or whatever it was. But he turned it around. Then there was a little bit of a rough patch in mid-April, but since he's turned it back around, so he's been having a good season. I think he's got a 123 WRC plus as of this current point. So he's been very valuable, and there's a lot to like about his bat. His defense, of course, we know is still not that great, but he's not playing the field this year. He's been a DH only. So, now, last week, when the Boston Red Sox were playing the Minnesota Twins at Fenway Park, Tristan Casas was running out a ball down the first baseline. And when he ran over the base, when he jumped over first base, he actually went to the ground in a heap. He was injured. He tore his left patellar tendon. He will be out for the remainder of the season. It's unfortunate for Tristan Casas, who was a young player that the Boston Red Sox were counting on this season, and he also was counting on to put up good numbers and kind of put some of those injuries that he had last year behind him. Remember the ribcage injury from last year? All that stuff, the inconsistency the season prior. So this was a big prove-it year for Casas, and it's so unfortunate that he had been not only struggling, but then he got hurt and he's out for the remainder of the season. Well, the Red Sox had a hole at first base now, because even though they have players like Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro on the roster, those are not major league everyday players. So the question was raised, hey, would Rafael Devers, who again is playing DH, would he be willing to move to first base? This is now going to be the second time in 2 months, pretty much, that the Red Sox have asked Devers to change his defensive position. And if I'm Devers, I'm like, are you serious? You first of all, you promised me I would be the third baseman of the future when I signed that contract extension. Then you signed Bregman and then you pushed me to DH. And now, not even a month plus into the season, you're telling me, oh, now I got to go back to first base, a position that I've never played, by the way. So I can understand where Devers is frustrated by that. Again, I saw something that I thought was interesting on a podcast the other day. Devers comes from a different culture than a lot of American players do. In the Latin culture, they place a very high premium and a very high indication on respect. They want people who are in authority to show players respect. It's very important in the Latin culture. And when you're kind of jerking a player around like this, or switching their job description around at a moment's notice, they can sometimes take that as a sign of not disrespect, but just not treating them the right way. So there's a difference between someone like Devers and someone who's, maybe an American-born player. He played in college, and he's willing to do whatever it takes, right? He's just happy to be there. It's a little bit of a different way of kind of selling the idea to those players versus a player like Devers. So Devers has felt a little disrespected. He's kind of felt like you're changing a lot of things on me here. This is kind of a little overwhelming. And he came out the other day when they asked him, would you be willing to go to first base? He said he would be unwilling. I'll pull up the quote here because he said, so right now, this is in quotes, so right now, I just feel like it's not an appropriate decision by them to ask me to play another position. In break training, spring, they talked to me and basically told me to put away my glove, that I wasn't going to play any other position but DH. He's right. And now here they are, a month plus into the season, changing it again on him. So I totally understand. However, I can understand where fans, and maybe parts of the team, feel like he should be more of a team player. And if they're asking him to do something, that he should be a little more receptive to it. Like, it's a little off-putting, I think, that he's just flatly rejecting it. He's criticizing the GM, the president of baseball operations, Craig Breslow, and it's kind of getting into like a spitting match in public. I could see where people would get a little frustrated by that, but this is something that I think is going to end pretty simply. Okay, in my opinion, Devers is ultimately going to be a first baseman. Now, I don't think that's going to happen tonight, next week. It may not even happen a month from now. Maybe it won't even happen this season. But I think he's eventually going to get there, because for the Boston Red Sox, they need to find a way to make this team, very sound defensively. And they need as many bats in the lineup as they can get. Again, like I told you, Devers is good, but there's this prospect knocking at the door, just like Christian Campbell was last year. And that is Roman Anthony and even Marcelo Meyer. They're both knocking on the door. And if Devers can move off of DH and play first base, that would all of a sudden open up the DH spot for a Meyer or an Anthony, which would make it a much cleaner fit from a Boston perspective. So I think eventually Devers is going to have to go to first base. He'll find it to be, just better for the team if he is interested in helping the team. And he really is serious about the team first part of it. Then I think he will definitely find it very easy to make that transition. It's going to be incumbent on someone like Alex Cora, the manager, who has a good relationship with Devers, to kind of smooth out that tension a little bit and to tell him and convince him that this is the right thing for the team. But that's ultimately what I think is going to happen here. Of course, there's a little bit of drama and controversy, just like there was in spring training, and that's why we're talking about it, which is a good thing. But ultimately, you'll see Devers at first base, and I think it'll make the Red Sox better to have someone like Devers at first base, and the DH spot could then be occupied by a rotating group of players, because right now, to have Abraham Toro and Romy Gonzalez roaming around at first base is just not a great answer for a team that admittedly has not only postseason aspirations, but also those championship aspirations. So that's the latest in the Boston Red Sox, who will begin a series tonight against the Kansas City Royals, a very good pitching team. The Red Sox bats will have their work cut out for them against the Royals this weekend. So thank you for watching this video.